Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. So the regular scheduled show got moved to tomorrow because of this breaking news. So unfortunately, today's not the protein show. Uh, so unfortunately, a pro bodybuilder named Cedric McMillan passed away. Very unfortunate situation. He was only 44 years old, married with kids, and recently had some health issues. And when they did that show on the gentleman somewhere in Europe who had a heart attack, at least he survived. And I was pretty leery of ever doing a show on one of these guys that passed away. um, some of them have passed away the past 2 years, I would say, but this one, I don't know, it was very much more moving, I guess, in a sense, because he's a very likable individual, or he was. um, and he was very transparent, I would say. So anyway, that's why I switched from shows, essentially. 'Cause I think there's some valuable lessons in here and certain things that people should be discussing, right? Yep, welcome to the chat to all the people in the chat. But without further ado, I'm just gonna start playing this video.
Hey, a brother feel good as hell. I ain't never been fucked up before. I don't think I ever been drunk. This shit here feel good though. I got my shit done. Finger still fucked up, but I'm ready to get back to normal. Ain't nothing funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. They got me out this bitch with no clothes on. Nurses coming by talking about they wanted to see how big I was. Shit. I want me a Whopper and a milkshake. Hey, what's up, y'all? First of all, I tried to make this video about 4 times. I keep deleting it, you know. I'm kind of like a private person when it comes to my personal business.
I don't know if you notice he's breathing heavily, just talking. He's breathing pretty heavily. He's not just speaking like you and I speak, for lack of a better word. And you see what he looks like. Muscular, looks in incredible shape, super fit. But you don't really know what's going on the inside, right?
Business, you know. I've been having some issues for about 4 weeks now, and I got a couple phone calls and some messages, some text messages from friends saying that they seen on the internet some shit was wrong with me. So, of course, if it's already on the internet, motherfuckers don't really know everything and just talking about what they know or what they think they know or what they heard. I said, well, I might as well get on there and do the shit myself, So here I am. Ever since I tried to compete at the Legion show in Nevada back in October, I've been having some issues with my stomach.
It's talking about October of last year.
I can't keep food down for some reason. It creates some stupid ass hiccups. I'm hiccuping all day long, half the night. And anytime I try to eat, even drinking water, it come back up, Nothing want to stay down. So 4 weeks ago, I went to the doctor again. I've been going to the doctor throughout, but they recommended that I wouldn't try to do the show because, of course, I'm being stubborn. If I eat this food and I throw up half of it, at least that's half, I can keep, just being an idiot, right?
So his doctors are recommending he does not do the show, right? But he's still persisting in training, even though he can't keep down the food. So there's a lot of other factors going on, as you will see in the clip.
So I just did what they said, got on the liquid diet, just eating fucking soup and, drinking weight gainer shakes I could still do the shakes that, you know, from Black Skull, mass gainers, weight gainers. I was using that to try to compensate for the calories.
So to maintain this kind of musculature, you have to consume a lot of calories, right? I mean, even me at my small size, if I don't eat enough food, I'll shrink, right? And just to show you where some people's mental state can be to look a certain way, imagine eating, throwing up, and then eating again. So you can't keep down the food, but you know you need the calories, right? So he's drinking, thinking, okay, if I lose half of this, I'll still keep the other half. Because he needs to look a certain way to get to do the show, right? Or to do shows. And then, of course, there's a financial point of view, right? He makes money by looking the way he looks. If he doesn't look the way he looks, he won't get paid, right? So he has financial pressures on top of it as well, right? These athletes are sponsored, got bills to pay like many of us.
All of the medicines, my fucking bathroom is...
This is his bathroom full of copious amounts of medication, right? Tons of medication here. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bottles.
Full of medicine. Shit.
There's a lot of medication he's taking there, right?
That I've been taking. Nothing was really working. And so 2 weeks out, it's the same shit, you know, it just ain't getting no better. So I finally decided to contact the show and let them know what was going on with me, that I wouldn't be able to compete. And, you know, they welcomed me, wanted me to still come anyway and get some work done. So I'll be in Ohio. For everybody that's going to be there, you know, come by and see.
So he's saying to show he can't compete because of his medical problems. And they're saying, okay, that's fine. You can fly down and like hang out, do photo shoots. It sounds kind of surreal, right? I think if most of us said we're having these kind of medical issues, I don't think anybody would be asking us to fly anywhere, to do anything, right?
I'm going to try to do the meet and greet.
Talking about try to do the meet and greet. It's as if you're working a regular 9-to-5 job and you're kind of sick and you're trying to show up like you have the cold or something. But obviously this is far more severe than that.
But yeah, man, I don't know. I've been battling back and forth with myself, not really knowing what to do next. I'm feeling like, all right, is it over? Does this mean I'm supposed to retire when I'm fucking sick all the time?
You know, essentially, yeah, that's what it means. You get to this point now, like any other athlete, except when the athlete needs to retire, typically it's because they're past their prime, etc. But in this case, it's health reasons. But it's not your regular health reasons, talking life and death type health reasons, right?
Or what, you know? And knowing motherfuckers on the internet gonna be talking shit, you know, wondering how family and friends gonna feel.
So he's kind of concerned about people he doesn't know, essentially, you know, talking about him on the internet, family and friends, right? That he's not going to be doing what he's been doing so many years. Eventually, he won't look the way he looks, because obviously the elephant in the room is to look like that. You have to be doing PEDs. You can't look like that naturally. Nobody looks like this naturally, right? So you have to be doing performance-enhancing drugs to look like that. But there is a price to be paid for this, right? I mean, even when you're on the incredible medical care, you got doctors. He's not like this guy's just willy-nilly doing things, right? They do regular labs, et cetera, et cetera. But even with all of that, the human body is just so complicated. There's so much we don't know. Even with all of that, you know, you can still end up in this situation. Plus, these guys have elite genetics. If I took that stuff, I still couldn't look like this, right? I don't have the genetics. You have to have elite level genetics to look like this guy or any of these people, right? It's like a supermodel. You just can't, you got to be born with it, right?
You know, Cedric ain't no bodybuilder no more. You know, just worrying about all that kind of stuff. Plus, still feeling in myself that I got something I need to try to prove to somebody.
So, you know, you're talking about life and death, but worrying about proving things to people, how people are going to view your image and that sort of thing. So it shows you where his headspace is at, right? And think I've said this on shows before. Sometimes, you can see some guys with Greek godlike Adonis bodies, right? And they're super covered up. And I remember thinking, man, if I look like that guy, I'd be like, trying to show everything, right? But he's like, there's this level of perfection they want to get to, certain size they want to get to, and unless they're looking photography ready, they don't want to show themselves. I don't really know, but
and still wanting to do the thing I love. But if I want to continue to do it, especially long term, I need to try to be smart. So this is me taking a 50% stubborn, 50% smart step, and not doing this show. Try to give myself a little bit more time. I do have one medicine that they gave me last week for stomach ulcers, and that seems to be helping. I had this issue, like I said, everything I eat coming back up, water, everything. And I'm hiccuping all day, half the night, non-stop. I have to fucking put my finger down my throat, gag myself to stop the hiccups. That's crazy, right?
That is very crazy. To stop the hiccups, he's gagging himself, right? Remind me of that story, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive lineman, I think. Some of you guys probably saw the movie. I watched the documentary, the one with Will Smith, about the brain injury and stuff. And the true life documentary, I think it was on PBS, I like to say. And, they're talking to people, knew the guy. He had to get electroshock to put himself to sleep at night, which obviously is kind of crazy. But I mean, trying to stop hiccuping by sticking your hand down your throat just shows that what the extreme situation you're living at when you're doing stuff like that, right?
But it seems to be getting a little bit better. So maybe it was just stomach ulcers this whole time. But anyway, we're working on it. Shout out to my company, Black Skull. They even offered to bring me down to Brazil and get checked out by their people down there. They got some real good connections with the doctors and stuff down there to get me looked at, to try to get me back healthy again. So thank you to them for, supporting me through this hard time. When you're in this bodybuilding game, when you're a sponsored athlete, you get protein powder and stuff like that, supplements to represent a brand. But when you got an endorsement contract, this company is paying marketing dollars to use your image, to represent them and help sell products.
So, basically what he's saying here is you have to look a certain way. I'm drawing an analogy, right? If Michael Jordan couldn't jump high and wasn't in current basketball, we all wouldn't have bought Air Jordans, right? I had the Air Jordans. Lots of people wanted Air Jordans, right? If he doesn't look the way he looks, they can't sell their supplements because the whole sales pitch is, hey, if you take this thing, drink that thing, you can look like him. No, you can't. Doesn't matter what you take. You can't look like this guy, right? But that's the myth, the illusion that is sold to people, right? That's why I said most supplement companies don't trust them. There's only a handful of them I really like. I won't, one or two I recommend really, because this is the illusion that they sell, right?
And so it's real easy to feel like, you're just material. And when you ain't, when you're not in the shape to where you can really represent the company and bring in money for them, they'll throw your ass away, right? And, I've been...
Well, I mean, you heard him, right? You don't look a certain way, they'll throw your ass away.
I'm worried about that, but, Black Skull, all the guys down there, Marcelo Bella, and the athlete managers, everybody down there on the team.
The more he talks, the harder he's breathing. He sounds like he's doing cardio, right? He's sitting in a car. He's sitting in a car. He said he tried to make this video several times, so assume he's relaxed at this point. But the more this video goes on, the harder this dude is breathing.
Team, they've been supporting me a lot, checking on me. So shout out to them. And hopefully I'll be back out there soon. I can eat about one solid meal a day. So I think things are starting to look up. I just need some more time, man. So we're going to take it slow and keep going. When I get to Ohio, I'm going to make a few vlogs, whatever you call them. I got some photo shoots to try to do there if I can. So I'll see y'all in Ohio. So,
he Yeah, at what price do you want to look good, or you just lose sight of things and you go from, a skinny kid maybe, or maybe a jack kid to super jacked or what have you? Because there's this myth out there that, hey, just do labs, you see doctors, blah, 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 everything will be fine. But a lot of these people, they're under medical supervision and they're still passing away. It's not as if they're just randomly doing some bro science stuff, right? These guys get regular labs. They're seeing, again, medical professionals, right? So what does not a bodybuilder think about this, right? I'm not a professional bodybuilder, one who's generally an outspoken person. So you get an uncut view of what he thinks.
If you in this fitness world and you training, don't just think, okay, I'm good. Go get yourself checked out, get everything checked, because I didn't realize what was going on inside me till they actually went in and looked.
The reason I'm making this video is because I want to urge all of you to be as careful as you can about your health.
So for those who know, Greg Deschette. So you see it says IFBB Pro. That's the International Federation of Bodybuilders. Greg is a pro bodybuilder. He's had several world records, I think deadlift and bench press, depending on, I think, on his age and height and weight, or age and weight. Another person who has elite genetics, he himself has admitted to using performance-enhancing drugs in the past. He says he no longer uses them. He's significantly smaller. As jacked as he is now, he's significantly smaller. So again, that's what I'm saying about elite-level genetics. Plus, once you use those things, you still maintain some of the stuff when you get off of it. Anyway.
Coach Greg, and I have some very sad news to report. Cedric McMillan has passed away. In hearing the news, I thought I would be shocked. I was trying to go through my emotions saying, how do I feel? And the emotion that kept coming up was, this could have been prevented. I'm sorry to say this, but this is how I feel. He had that near-death experience just a few months ago.
Back in July, I was almost dead. Like literally notify your next of kin.
And so against his doctor's advice, he's continued to train, packing on the muscle, all for what? To compete in bodybuilding.
Ever since I tried to compete at the Legion show in Nevada back in October, I've been having some issues with my stomach.
And so on February 28th, Cedric spent 5 minutes going over his current health problems. He had a hard time swallowing food, water, trying to keep it down, was literally hiccuping all day and night, had so much problem, medications and so on. And
anytime I try to eat, even drinking water, it come back up, nothing want to stay down.
And consider, he was going through this while prepping for a show, throwing up half the food.
I went to the doctor again. I've been going to the doctor throughout, but they recommended that I wouldn't try to do the show.
And 4 weeks out, I'm looking pretty good. And then I kept going till 2 weeks out, and I was dropping some fat, but it kept going, and I decided to drop out.
If I want to continue to do it, especially long term, I need to try to be smart. So this is me taking a 50% stubborn, 50% smart step, and not doing this show.
The intelligent move is, you gotta retire, you gotta quit, you gotta know when it's too much. When your health is in danger to this extent, it's an obvious no-brainer. You can't keep doing it.
Does this mean I'm supposed to retire when I'm fucking sick all the time? Or what, And
so we can convince ourselves that PDs had nothing to do with this, that it's some other condition, some underlying issue. But if you really think that PDs had no influence on this whatsoever, then you're living in imagination land.
Knowing motherfuckers on the internet gonna be talking shit, wondering how family and friends gonna feel, Cedric ain't no bodybuilder no more.
And he brought this up, and this really makes me sad. He says he's reading comments on the internet, people saying, well, if Cedric retires, then, well, he hasn't accomplished this and he hasn't done enough.
Just worrying about all that kind of stuff. Plus, still feeling in myself that I got something I need to try to prove to somebody, and still wanting to do the thing I love.
And not only that, he has a contract. He has to provide a certain image. They're paying him to look a certain way to sell products. And so when your livelihood depends on how you look, very hard to just walk away from the sport.
And when you ain't, when you're not in the shape to where you can really represent the company and bring in money for them, they'll throw your ass away, right? And, I've been worried about that, but...
And you can debate me and say bodybuilding may not have had anything to do with his death. He would have had this anyway. I personally don't believe that. And no, I'm not a doctor. I don't know for sure. But I can tell you this. Is this not the wake-up call that you need?
So I think things are starting to look up. I just need some more time, man. So
I've seen so many deaths in the last few years, it's overwhelming. And I'm trying to send a message to be careful. And it's extremely sad that this would happen to such a great guy. Everyone loves Cedric. I previously made a video on Cedric saying, I hope he switches to classic physique, that he downsizes, and that we can see him battle it out for the title against Chris Bumstead. Everyone will want to see this. But yet, a bodybuilder wants to be as big as possible. They just get addicted to it.
Yeah, you know, that's what I'm talking about, where a lot of guys start going to the gym because they're skinny or they're fat and they want to transform, right? And then somewhere along the way, they lose sight of the original purpose, right? Hey, I want to not be skinny or wimpy, or I don't want to be fat. And then they just keep going and going. And there's never enough muscle, never enough size, never enough this, you know, and they just keep going and going and going. And the entire lifestyle is kind of wrapped up in this image, right? I can draw an analogy with chess, right? I think I've told you guys, played tournament chess. And I've met adults, grown men and women, that their lives are so wrapped up in this thing, is like to the exclusion of everything else, right? You know, you'll see holes in shirts and they're just so wrapped up in this thing. They just need water and food just to stay alive, you know, but the main thing they care about is this chess, right? The exclusion of almost everything. Sometimes they can be or could have been very successful in other endeavors, but all their energy is going to this thing, right? It's almost kind of obsessive in a sense. And sometimes with the body transformation stuff, I feel as if it is similar in that some of these guys and ladies, they can never look good enough. I mean, most people would be quite happy to look a fraction of these people, but they themselves are not happy. They want to, I remember hearing an interview with a guy who had to stop taking, you know, the PEDs because of some lab work or whatever. And he ended up switching gyms because he used to be the guy, as he described it, that was, you know, the big guy in the gym. Everybody comes to give him advice, compliment him, etc., etc. And he just emotionally couldn't handle it, right? And personally, I remember there was this guy at the gym I used to go to, and his upper body, like waist up, just looks flawless. It looks almost unreal, I would say. Not huge like this, like normal sized, relatively speaking, that most women would say his upper body is perfection and most guys would love to look like him. And I remember it didn't see him for like a year, and then I ran into him in another gym and he was still better looking than me, but he is noticeably different and he wouldn't make eye contact with me. And never seen this dude again. Never seen him again. I have no clue what happened to this guy, right? So it's almost like this line where Daryl Hannah in the movie Wall Street, the original Wall Street, where she says that the only thing worse than being poor is going from poor to rich and back to poor. You know, I can't imagine going from Clark Kent to Superman and then back. And I think this is what struggles a lot of these guys, right? Getting to that level and having to go back to stop taking this stuff, right? When they're, you know, it's kind of like a car, right? You hear noises in the car before something breaks. It just doesn't break overnight. So this guy had warnings. Some of these other guys have had warnings. You know, the labs are looking bad, or they come down. You know, you see all these interviews, and they're like, they're going to try again and do this and do that. And yeah, Greg Duchette is one of the few ones, at least, that I can be aware of on YouTube that, you know, he's totally gone off, and he said, hey, trying to make sure he lives to 80, 90 or what have you, quality of life. But yeah.
They need to have that size, that mass. And in the search to being the biggest, leanest person on the planet, of course, it's inevitable that you're going to use and abuse PDs.
ignoring the doctor's advice. And then I spent about 4 weeks trying to get ready while I'm still sick. So that lets you know how damn crazy we are, you know?
And so Cedric says that he got the virus that I'm not going to name, the C word, got it back in 2020. And he believes that that potentially is what's causing his heart failure and heart problems.
I mean, that could well be, but I mean, I'm no doctor, but you know, so many of these guys, when they pass away, it's from, and ladies too for that matter, there's at least 2, I think, that passed away within the last 2 years, female bodybuilders. some kind of cardiac type situation, right? And while the C word, it definitely can impact things during this pandemic. But that other stuff, there's no doubt about, I mean, that stuff just takes years off your life, right? It's like smoking, right? It takes years off your life. At the end of the day, it takes years off your life.
Now,
I didn't start to have any issues until April 2021.
whether or not it's a result of the C word or not, I'm convinced that PDs had something to do with this.
Also, with most athletes, they have an enlarged heart.
He speaks about how he had an enlarged heart.
I mean, you don't get an enlarged heart just out of nowhere, right? You ever notice some of these guys have these huge veins, like the biceps is like permanently, even if they're at rests. When they wake up, the vein it's the body adapting to all the stuff going through them, right? Because they're pumping so much blood, needs blood flow. So usually when you see veins, the one down there, I forget what it's called, it's due to leanness. But even some of these guys, when they're not that lean, they still have these huge veins that are up there because so much blood is pumping, right? Your hearts are enlarged, putting a lot of stress on the body. It's, if you took a car, I used to do drag racing, I had a drag racing license. You modify a car, right? When you increase the power to a certain point, you have to increase the support structure, right? Whether it's your suspension or the gearbox, you blow the gearbox, right? Except with your body, you kind of just have what you have, and your body does its best to adapt with the heart, blood vessels, etc. But there's only so much it can do, right? There's only so much it can handle. You put too much power there, too much horsepower, eventually something goes kaput, unfortunately. You look at race cars, right? Those engines don't last. I mean, in Formula One, I watch Formula One, each team is allocated several engines for the season, and they use them. Imagine in your car if you were to change out your engine several times in a year. That sounds implausible, right? But a race car engine is running on the edge, finely tuned piece of equipment. They're trying to get as close to the edge as possible for that engine to fail, right? Because they're trying to win. They're all trying to win. So when you're that close, you're flying that close to the sun, you may, like Icarus, what happened with him.
Taking steroids, training like this, going to enlarge the heart. Bodybuilders who are using PDs, even in lower doses, it's not safe.
And it makes us...
That's a key part there. There's this myth out there that, if I use the right dose, just because you read a book on flying a fucking plane doesn't make you a fucking pilot. You didn't go to airplane. You didn't get to flight school. You're not a damn pilot. You're not a doctor, right? I don't care how much stuff you read on the internet.
Bodybuilders and fitness people particularly sensitive.
And so if anything, if you do in fact get that virus, does that make not even more sense to not abuse PDs?
My wife was with me, but I was out of here, seriously. But I didn't see no white light, so I don't know if I was that close, but looking at me from the outside, I was that close.
Do you want to be the next Cedric? Likable guy, everyone loves the guy, taken away from us far too young. He's sick, loses the weight, ignores his doctor's advice, and has to put on 30 pounds. How do you think he's doing that?
Has to put on 30 pounds. Not 30 pounds of fat, it's 30 pounds of muscle, right?
Do you think he's doing that 100% natural? Imagine the toll, the strain that puts on the body. Those of you who are taking PDs, you all know how risky it really is. You have to see the risk. And so please, I urge you to go see your doctor, get your blood work done, do everything and anything to be proactive with your health. And so he's doing the guest posing show, flexing the biceps, and people are like, wow, you look incredible. And he's thinking, no, I feel small. Why didn't you tell me that before I did my routine? I feel small. And so perhaps this body dysmorphia, this disassociation, what your body actually looks like, leads to people wanting to use and abuse PDs to get to the elite level.
Yeah, and people think of body dysmorphia, they usually think of people who don't look incredible, for lack of a better word, right? But you can have it, it's, you can have a six-pack body, but you don't have a six-pack mind. I think ladies can probably relate to this more so than guys, where if a guy is just drawing an analogy here, right? A guy may look very handsome, but if he doesn't have something inside of him to go and talk to the girl, he just looks great, but he just can't go over there and say something to her, right? And the woman is thinking, doesn't he like me, or what's going on? So you may have six-pack body, but you don't have a six-pack mind, right? So be mentally strong to, at this point in time, quit, not care what people on the internet are going to say, etc., 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 right? Downsize, compete in a less category, need to use less drugs, perhaps, or just quit altogether, right? He was employed. He was with the Army, I believe, as an instructor.
You look about the biggest and best I've ever seen you.
Okay, well, that's kind of crazy because when I got off the plane, I immediately said, oh my God, I feel like I'm small. And when I walked into the hotel, the dude that picked me up at the airport, I said, shit, he bigger than me. What?
And so do you see this the way I do as I'm watching Cedric speaking on stage? He's funny, charismatic, and so on. But do you see, if you really read between the lines, does he really like the way he looks? Why is he abusing PDs? Why did he not downsize after this near-death experience? He could have literally been in the Mr. Olympia in classic physique without all the huge muscles and competed against Chris Bumstead. But do you not think it's safer, healthier to compete at a smaller size with less PDs than at a larger size? Cedric is huge. He probably could have gone on HRT and HRT alone and competed in classic physique and been...
That's hormone replacement therapy for those of you who don't know what he's talking about when he says HRT, otherwise called TRT, testosterone replacement therapy.
In the Mr. Olympia, but he didn't want it to. Wants to be the biggest and the baddest. And as you get older, it gets harder. Years and years and years of strain on the heart and your organs. When is enough going to be enough? And in case you think I'm being hypocritical, Coach Greg, you abuse steroids. Who are you to talk? Yeah, I did for 10 years. But what am I doing now? Right now, 140 milligrams a week HRT prescribed by my doctor. That's right, prescribed by my doctor because the doctor feels I need that dose more than I don't need it to be healthy. And I eat healthy. I have a very good diet. I also do a lot of cardio, as cardio is so important for your heart health. I also get regular blood work. I'm being proactive. I'm trying to get all the tests needed to ensure my health and safety.
And because I'm just saying, oh, I'm 300 pounds, that's why I can't breathe so well, right? But it wasn't that. It was the underlying issue that took that long to manifest itself.
And so is it in fact the underlying issues of getting the C word that a year later it's affecting his heart? Or is it the fact that he's 300 pounds? I believe a little of both. I think it's probably both. And so if you had an underlying issue that makes you more susceptible, would you not do everything and anything, even more so, to ensure you're healthy?
You know, if you're in this fitness world and you training, don't just think, okay, I'm good. Go get yourself checked out, get everything checked, because I didn't realize what was going on inside me till I actually went in and looked. And
so Cedric himself says, enough of us are dying. Please go get checked out. And so it's the purpose of this video. The reason I'm making this video is because I want to urge all of you to be as careful as you can about your health. You might be thinking, it's not going to happen to me, but how many people can it happen to before you start thinking, this actually could happen to me? And I'm going to be honest, when I was in my 30s, early 40s even, I thought, I'm such a fit guy. I used to do triathlons when I was a kid. I eat healthy. It won't happen to me. Became into my 40s, saw all this going on. And so why do you think I haven't competed in several years now? Why do you think I'm only on HRT? And those of you thinking, oh, he's probably using Tren and all this stuff, he's just lying. Do you really think that I'm going to lie? What benefit would that be to me? I want to live the longest, healthiest life possible. And if I'm lying, do you know who the biggest person I'm lying to is? Myself. You can lie to everyone else in the world. Everyone can believe you. But if you're lying to yourself, convincing yourself that everything you're doing is of no ill consequence, then the biggest loser in all this, it's you. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching. Greg.
All right. Very deep and heavy show today, right? Drop the link for anybody who wants to call in, wants to discuss this. Let me know your thoughts, questions, comments. Yeah, not our regular show. Definitely the saddest show we've had. Again, welcome to everybody that's in the chat today. Sec Amethyst asked, did he have blood clots? There's no official autopsy as yet. So what they said was heart attack. It was on the treadmill, presumably walking. Yes, Igwe's daughter initial word was heart attack. It's the first thing that's come out. Yeah, very unfortunate. Hello, Mario. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Yeah, Angelique, you know, like I said, I wasn't going to do this till I watched some of these videos. And I was like, yeah, I think maybe, you know, maybe hit some people more, let's say. Because I think there's this myth out there that, yeah, you just take these things, everything can be okie dokie, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's not that this stuff hasn't been happening for years, but pre-social media and the internet, yeah, most people just weren't aware of it. Plus, for every famous person like this, it's like that guy we looked at the other day in somewhere in Eastern Europe, right? 10, 15 years ago, nobody would have heard of that guy, right? But just now, because you can just imagine how long this has been going on, right? It's been going on for a while. Yeah. Yes, skincare do's and don'ts. This is so unfortunate. I agree. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. What Angelique asked, what exactly is causing the body to reject food? They did not say. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's any, but with a medical background in the chat who could opine on that. D. Baker says, apparently 250 pounds of muscle is clearly not good for your heart. You know, that is true, but D. Baker, and welcome to the show, by the way. Also, there are people a lot smaller than him that have had issues from PEDs, right? There are people smaller than him, like 220, 200. I mean, I'm 195. You know, 220 is not that far away, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah, there are people that, again, they're not pros because, you know, the typical person that's on this stuff is not a professional, actually. It's just an amateur person. And some of them don't even look like they're taking anything because either they have crappy genetics or their diet sucks, so they're taking stuff. And I remember if I told this story, I'm working out in the gym. There's this young guy beside me working on, and he starts talking to this older guy and starts talking about what cycle he's on. And I remember thinking, at the time, it was funny. It's not so funny now. Yeah, I remember thinking, if I was this guy, I would want a refund because if you look at him, he was slim. But if you saw him on the street, you would not think he's taking anything. You wouldn't even be sure he works out. That's how normal he looked, right? So again, a lot of this stuff is genetics. Greg talks about this in other videos. You've had other people touching this as well, right? But people think, oh, I take this stuff, I'll look superhuman. Not necessarily. Just like if you take these supplements, you're not going to look like these guys either, right? They're selling an illusion. Louisiana Angelique says, if the price is your life, it ain't worth it. I agree. Igwe's daughter says, most of these bodybuilders pass from cardiac issues. Okay, so you also have some other information here. Igwe's daughter says, the growth hormones they take cause not only their external muscles to grow, but also internal musculature, like the heart, cardiac tissue. You're right, that's a muscle, all right? Can make things grow. Like when you're a kid, that stuff is growing, but as an adult, it's not supposed to grow anymore, right? Sure. Igwe's daughter goes on to say their hearts grow faster than the support network, nerves, synapses, adequate vascular to support this axillary tissue, and everything is off. Back to my analogy with the car, right? You soup up your car. That was the phrase when you modify your car. And, you know, say you get a car with, I'm making up a number, 300 horsepower, you're going to modify it to 400. Maybe that internal structure is fine at that level, but now if you get to 500-600 horsepower, perhaps that's when you need to be upgrading the gearbox, right? You could break the gearbox, the suspension. You could snap something. And I had a drag racing license. I've seen this, you know, at the strip where car is very fast, and then pow, it just goes kaput, right? Because you're taking a stock car from the manufacturer. It's built in with all these tolerances, and you suddenly have gone way past them. It's the same thing with the human body. You can go way past the tolerances, let's say. It's like smoking. One person could smoke and be fine for decades. Another person smoke and could get lung cancer, right? So people also think, oh, well, you know, I'm not a pro bodybuilder. That can't happen to me. But again, we just saw this other dude, regular dude with a heart attack, right? Yeah. So Igwe's daughter goes on to point out irregular heartbeats, cardiac arrest, etc. is soon to follow. Yep. Skincare do's and don'ts said the endorsement by companies so much pressure. Yep. And then the social pressure. Oh, Angelique says, "Oh my God, social pressure is not a joke." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, good evening, Tamika. Yeah, sorry, it was the last minute change to this just because of the breaking news. Yeah, because I wanted to do some show on this kind of stuff, but before several people died the last 2 months or something, or at least two people I can think of. But I did the one on the heart attack. See, because he survived, I didn't want to deal with anybody that passed away. But this one was just very super duper moving to me, and as a result, I did. Thanks for the super chat, Positive Therapist. Positive Therapist says a study published in Motivation and Emotion offers evidence that unmet basic physical psychological needs may be linked to the drive for muscularity in some bodybuilders. Oh, I'm going to read that again. A study published in Motivation and Emotion offers evidence that the unmet basic psychological needs may be linked to the drive for muscularity in some bodybuilders. I could believe that. Yeah. Back to my six-pack body without the six-pack mind. I've definitely seen people like that. Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. Thanks for the super chat, Uwezimana. This really shows how important for people, especially men, to listen to doctors and go to yearly checkups. Condolences to his family and those who care for him. Yep. That's the thing, even if you're just a regular person, you need to do regular checkups. Men are notoriously bad at this, right? Notoriously bad at this. I remember a friend of mine telling me, one of our coworkers, he was sick, coughing, kept trying to do work, and then finally when he went, had the flu or pneumonia, I think, and passed away. All very preventable, right? Yeah, if something is off, you got to go see a doctor. Don't try to be some tough guy. Again, it's usually guys, not women. Just see a doctor, right? Worse if you're doing stuff, You see, the unfortunate thing is from what I understand, the typical person out here doing this stuff, they're just doing it bro science willy-nilly, stupid stuff they read on the internet. Oh, do this, do that. And when you look at these YouTubers, there's one I debated doing. This guy his acne looked like something out of a horror film. That's the best way to describe it. But I thought maybe it would be too much for you guys to handle. And the crazy part is a normal looking dude, he was slim, right? And started taking the, and he went from slim to, again, Adonis, perfect physique. Every dude would love to look like him. Every woman would love their guy to look like him. And then this crazy acne was coming on his chest, and it got disgusting. That's the best way to describe it. It looked like literally something out of a horror film. And it would come and go, and he chronicles this stuff and he posts on it. Thankfully, he did this. Hopefully, stuff like that scares away other people. But when you're young, what's that saying? Young, dumb, and full of, blank, the C word. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Unfortunate there. Tamika Funderberg says, that's true, Igwe's daughter. Their muscles grow faster than the support network. Yep, this is true, Sec Amethyst. I postponed the one I was going to do today about protein to tomorrow. Yep. Yeah, this is so true. You can't rush what God took years to formulate, straight up. And yeah, I've seen people literally go from, let's say, slightly below me or nothing close to me to way beyond me in months. No exaggeration. I've seen this with my own eyes in front of my face, and I was like, wow. I can see why that stuff is very tempting to utilize. Because, the Marvel movie, Captain America, when the guy, he goes in that device and comes out looking, and everybody's like, whoa. The ladies are like, woo. Yeah, this stuff is like that. You can literally transform that dramatically in months, a year. That's very doable, very realistic. So that is, I can only imagine being quite the head rush. I guess the analogy for ladies would be if you were some regular looking lady with flat chest, flat derriere, and suddenly, magically, your boobs grew and your face got prettier and your butt grew. That's the only analogy I can think of. You know, that's got to be quite the mind trip, right? And it'd be hard to give that up, let's say. It'd be hard to give that up. Yeah. Skincare do's and don'ts says there's nothing that is worth dying premature for. I agree. I agree. Angelique says, do you think science will begin to explore possible organs such as heart, lungs to support the body of a body? If you, I mean, building them, I guess eventually, I mean, in science fiction novels, they have that kind of stuff. But science is so far from that, because the thing is, Angelique, it's not just as simple as the heart, lungs, right? Ziegler's daughter was saying, it's all the other support structures, the nerves, the this, the that, your brain to regulate things. You know, the human brain is just so powerful and complicated. What did they estimate? We use like, what, 10, 20% of our brain power? There's just so much we don't understand about the body, the human body. Just so much we do not understand, right? Yeah, because it's not like his, even if he was to have a different heart, let's say, you don't know what some other problems can create. Angelique asks, do bodybuilders get diabetes? Yes, they do. They do. Some of these drugs totally screw up their insulin sensitivity, right? Plus, some of them take insulin as well. I mean, on purpose, even if they're not diabetic. I think I've used this quote before. The two groups of people that are most cutting edge with stuff to put in our body are horse trainers and bodybuilders. Horse trainers because they're willing to pump the horse full of anything, and bodybuilders because they're willing to pump themselves full of anything. These people are very cutting edge, for lack of a better word, right? And things they do later filter down to, let's say, Olympic professional athletes. They're also cutting edge, and then it filters down to wealthy people, and then it filters on to us mere mortals, right? This is like, what, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 years process, you know? So, yeah, it's not, yeah. So Igwe's daughter says, I think I missed Tamika's comment earlier. Response to Angelique, I really don't know how science is going to be able to recreate the intricate network that supports our major organs, especially when you're pushing your body to the max. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say about the other other support structures, not just the big pieces that you see, right? It's the other little things. Skincare do's and don'ts. That's a good question. I wonder if many of the bodybuilders have body dysmorphia. You know, I can't answer that, but I do know, like I said, I've seen guys and ladies, usually the guys though, where to me, incredible physiques that they're all covered up. I used to think maybe it's just that they've looked like that so long they don't care to wear like a tank top or something. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. You know, because the thing is, right, when you get to a certain level of leanness, because remember, you know, that the look they have, that crazy leanness, can't keep it all the time, right? Like we discussed before, it'll take photo shoots, a ton of photos one time of the year. And then you see in their off season, they're bigger. Like, you notice in the first clip when he's in the hospital, his face is fatter. Because most likely it's the off season, right? So they're not walking around super duper lean all the time, right? But that too can play something on your mind. Once you step on stage and look crazy lean and look fantastic, and you're like, later on, you're like, man, I don't look like that, right? So you can still look good. You look better than 99% of people on the planet, right? Especially if you compete in the smaller sizes. But you will still know that, man, there's this other level I can get to. You know, there's this other level I can get to where I'm just like the baddest dude or the baddest chick. You know, you walk, it's like when you're young and hot, you walk into any place and you know you're the baddest dude or the baddest chick in there. Yeah, this is what this kind of stuff does. And for those of us who have never been the baddest dude or the baddest chick, if you can take this stuff and it can make you, remember the lady that called in, right? You remember she said she looked so hot, she didn't need to try stuff on. She would just order it because she knew anything she wore, she would look hot in. Okay, remember she said psychologically it was hard to stop using that stuff. It was a blessing in disguise that she was having some skin issues, right? Otherwise, she'd still be doing it. And even though she still has some regret, right? And it's a grown, mature woman. What do you think young people are going to do, right? Yeah. So Igwe's daughter thinks very few have diabetes. Rigorous exercise improves insulin sensitivity and glucose tolerance. So here's a question. I don't know if Igwe's daughter knows this or anybody else, but when they take some of these drugs that screws up said insulin sensitivity, even if they do cardio, can they still end up with diabetes still? Right? I mean, some of these guys get sleep apnea as a result as well. They didn't have sleep apnea before bodybuilding, but they do now. Just based on their size, right? They're just too big. Yeah. So Angelique asked an interesting question. I don't want to ask this question, didn't want to ask this question, but it just popped in. Does bodybuilding shrink the men's private parts? Well, the two parts that start with the word B, like, where your basket, you're bouncing the thing, those can shrink. Not the actual main part, for lack of a better word, I guess you could say. But the supporting structure can, yes, shrink. Because what happens is they no longer have natural testosterone production, right? So that part will shrink up, basically. And it can impact for their fertility, their ability to create kids. Of course, they have fertility things they can take, but still. Right. Interesting. Igwe's daughter says bodybuilding goes way beyond rigorous exercise, so their insulin sensitive should be pretty great. So you think that it counteracts the drugs, I guess is what you're saying? Okay. Angelique says, a lot of males I know, they don't really be going to doctor's checkups. I think it's a male thing. They just don't like. Yeah, it is. Definitely. Statistics show this, right? Men are far less likely to go to the doctor than ladies. So many guys have unnecessarily passed away because they don't get their prostate checked, right? I remember a doctor telling me that's like the number one thing for guys, or number one cancer anyway, that's preventable. You just got to get it checked. I'm 48. I get my prostate checked. If you're over the age of 40, you got to get your prostate checked. Right? So, yeah. Hey, good evening, Tony, or good night, rather. Yes, not the usual upbeat show tonight, but very valuable information to, bring out. 300 pounds of muscle, that's a lot. Yeah. One thing to not get caught up on is the size, because like I said before, you have guys who are 220 pounds that have these kind of problems, right? It's not just dudes that are that big, right? You have other guys that are smaller. Greg Doucette is not 300 pounds. He stopped, right? Greg Doucette is like 5'6", I think, probably. Let me look him up. Greg Doucette, height and weight. So he's 5'6", he weighs what I weigh. He's 2 inches shorter than me and weighs what I weigh, 195. So even he got off that stuff. And he's done shows where I forget what he said. There was something he said, actually, something back with the insulin sensitivity. I'll have to double check this, but he did a show on Labs, Igwe's daughter, where I like to say he said something like his insulin sensitivity, that number was not so good. And he does a ton of cardio, more than anybody in this chat and me. I mean, he's an elite level cyclist. I mean, world-class cyclist, I should say. So, yeah, and I remember being shocked by that. I got to double check that, but Igwe's daughter, I like to say it was his insulin sensitivity that was not great, which, yeah. I mean, he himself has admitted this is why he does so much cardio, right? To try to prevent things. It's very unfortunate there. Yeah, he's still catching his breath while talking, yeah. But even when they're smaller than that, they can have the same problem, right? So don't get too just caught up in the weight. You can be much smaller and have similar issues. Hello, Snuggles668. Welcome to the chat. I've dropped the link for anybody that wants to call in. Oh, and hey, hit that like button. I'm always forgetting to ask people to hit the like button. Likes are free, so please hit the like button. Keep forgetting that. Likes are free, so hit that like button. Thank you. I appreciate it. It lets the algorithm know that there were people here. I mean, it knows that you're here, but if you click the like button, it knows that you really liked what you were seeing. It helps spread the word. Yeah, Snuggles. Like I said, lots of cool names on YouTube. Hello, the weightlifting geek. Welcome to the show. Hey, what's up, my brother? Hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Hello, Gail. Welcome. Good evening. Gail is the hardest working lady on YouTube. For those of you who don't know, she moderates like a gazillion channels. I wonder when she sleeps. Oh, man. I literally wondered if Gail was some retired old lady when I first started YouTube because I couldn't see her picture. And I was like, maybe she's some retired little old lady or something because she's always moderating. No offense, Gail. I know that you're not some little old retired lady. Yes. You're young and good looking. So that's funny. Let's see. Going down. Yeah, it's a very crazy thing, crazy things. So, I mean, one of the big takeaways, no matter what you do, is go to the doctor. You should do regular checkups. You know, I think my dad does like 2 checkups a year, I like to say. Because you never know, right? I mean, the insurance covers at least 1 trip, right? And yeah. Or maybe they cover 2. Well, for sure they cover at least 1, but yeah, doing regular labs. No, but I think labs are more than once a year, I'd like to say. Yeah, labs are definitely more than once a year. Yeah, you have your annual checkup, but aside from that, you can have labs more than once a year. That is correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Unfortunate situation, right? Very unfortunate situation. But yeah, do that annual check. Do that annual check, right? And you know, a good tip too is when you see the doctor, this nurse explained to me here in Florida, she was saying, I think by insurance, at least here in the US anyway, I think you get like 30 minutes or something. So when the doctor sees you or whatever, and they're going through your stuff, right? They may seem to kind of rush you out of there, but the insurance actually get billed for, like to say, the 30 minutes. So you can take your time and ask them questions, right? You should get the full time. Right? Not so that it's like, hey, everything looks good, blah, blah, blah. Okay, see you next year. No, sit there and make them explain things to you, right? You don't have to ask questions per se. Just make them go through all your labs and make them explain, why is this good? Just ask why. Why is that good? Right? That way you can make sure everything is fine. Yeah, positive therapist says, speaking about death and dying is a very uncomfortable topic, yet these conversations can help people emotionally. I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I guess I will say final thoughts. If anybody wants to call in, hopefully this is a powerful message to people there. You know, get your health checked up. Again, guys are usually bad at this, but hey, you ladies, if you're not getting checked up once a year, and then, you know, you don't want to do anything extreme, right? So this guy was doing some certain things are extreme, but hey, you know, if you're hardly eating, that's extreme too, right? I mean, I've showed you guys what the FDA says you should be eating. So if you're eating half of that or a fraction of that, you're doing something extreme. Not as extreme as him, but you're still doing something extreme, right? So you want to take care of yourself. Remember, Rome was not built in a day, right? You can't transform in a month or 3 months, no matter what somebody on Instagram tells you or another YouTube channel tells you. They're just trying to sell you something, right? Or they say, oh, they're not selling anything, but they're getting your views. They're getting advertising dollars from YouTube, or they're getting sponsored. Yeah, don't believe them. If it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. You cannot trust them. And as usual, I tell you guys what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, right? Yeah. You need to hear those kind of things. You need to hear those kind of things. Got to hear those things. Tomorrow will be a much lighter topic. Back on schedule talking about protein. It may seem like a very simple thing, but it builds on previous discussions and a bunch of new things, right? Because that's probably the most critical macronutrient that you need to get right to consume. Whether you're trying to transform your body, you know, lose weight, build muscle, or maintain, whatever it is, You got to get that protein number right. You can screw up on the carbs and fat, but you screw up on the protein, nothing good will happen. Nothing good will happen. All right, so very somber show tonight. Very condolences again out to that gentleman's family, Cedric McMillan's family. Hope his kids and wife are, dealing okay with this stuff, right? And again, it's not worth your life trying to look like Superman, look fantastic, or look like Wonder Woman, because there's some female bodybuilders that passed away last year, right? And they're not all big and musculated. I think one was bikini, I think. Don't quote me on that. Meaning she looked girly, if I remember correctly. Yeah, unfortunate situation. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. So later's my message. May I go along now? For those who don't speak Jamaican patois, that is goodbye, my people. Have a good night. Be safe.